Hello lads and ladies, and welcome back for another video on the channel. Back with some more Sky Bet League One content. Today we're going to rank every team's season so far. Now we've hit November, bit of a break due to the magic of the FA Cup. Well, for some having early exits. We're going to have this time to reflect on the season so far. It's been a long season so far because it's been Saturday. No real Tuesday night games. We've just had the one round of 3-game week of Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. We will come back to this in maybe about February, have a judge then at the end of the year. So I'm thinking about doing this 3 times across the season where we rank every team's season so far. Now, this just isn't just on table positioning. So, for example, a Burton, an Exeter, who you maybe expect to be down there, you might give a little bit more credit. Or Huddersfield being in the top half, there's context that they should be up there, but they maybe not be achieving as much. So it's not just going to be, well, because you're in the bottom 6, you're in the lowest tier. So that sort of thing. If you're new to the channel, please do me a massive favor. Please, can you all subscribe now? Down below, go down there, press subscribe. If you've not done it, it's free. On this channel, we do League One content. And if every single person, whether you subscribed or not, like this video, let's see if we can get 150 likes. That's a big like goal. Let's see how we can do down below. So the categories for this then today is U, ungradable. Pretty bad start. You must be pretty awful to go in there. D, not quite great, but not quite poor. There's reasons to feel optimistic. C, pretty okay, hard to judge. B, pretty decent start, maybe not quite at the highest level yet, but a solid start for that football club. A, very good start, maybe not quite the best yet, but quite good. A star's going to be left for maybe 2, maybe 3 teams that push it. Doesn't even need to be in the top 3. There's arguments for everything. Let me know your thoughts down below. That's going to be crucial. Let's get into it. So starting off with AFC Wimbledon now, who have had a really good start to the season, coming up from Sky Bet League 2. For me, AFC Wimbledon, they've got to go in A. Now, AFC Wimbledon are the type of side that are nasty, horrible to play against, win by margin football matches. They actually won their last 4 games last year by 1-0. The final game away at Grimsby, they beat, in the playoff semi-final, Notts County, 1-0 away, 1-0 at home, and won against Walsall 1-0. My issue was I thought that would go against them this year, but it's gone the opposite direction. They're winning plenty of football matches. They have lost a couple of games, 3-0 away at Bolton. They lost to Burton, last weekend from recording this video. Overall, a good season for the Dons. Next up is Barnsley. Now, Barnsley started the season really well, I felt, and there was reason to feel optimistic under Conor Hourihane. Barnes' expectation should be to get into the top 6, top 10 picture. They're in and around it. For me, I still think Barnsley aren't quite at the highest level yet. So I'm going to go for B for Barnsley. Now, there isn't much in it between Barnsley and Wimbledon, but Barnsley you expect more than AFC Wimbledon. That is where this sort of goes in. Started well under Conor Hourihane, faded out in the last few weeks. Blackpool. Where do we start? Some horrid times under Steve Bruce, but reason to feel optimistic under Ian Evatt after a good win away at Peterborough and then a win in the Cup against Scunthorpe on Saturday. They've still not been playing well. A good result against Huddersfield, a good result against Barnsley. Both winning in a way that they wouldn't normally like to win. They want to get the job done a lot easier. But Barnsley, a late winner, is always great. Huddersfield with 10 men. They are in the bottom 4. Blackpool squad should be challenging for the top 6. A lot of injuries out. I'm going to go U. It is ungradable because although they beat Peterborough, who are bottom of the league, Blackpool should be doing miles better. So far, we've got AFC Wimbledon in A, Barnsley in B, and Blackpool in ungradable. Next up, Bolton Wanderers, who have had a decent season. They've been very good at home. Now, if Bolton were judged at home, for me, Bolton has sort of the home format. I think it's 5 wins and 2 draws. They're up there. Are at home. However, away from home, they've not been great. A good win at Huddersfield. I think I still expect more from this Bolton side. I'm going to go B, better than Barnsley, but I still think there's reasons to feel optimistic about Bolton. They're not far away from A. And I feel with Bolton, when they are at their absolute best, it's great, but sometimes there's a 1-0 or a 2-0 defeat in there. Burton away, Northampton away, pretty grim days at the office, but there is reason to feel, great about this side again. Next up, Bradford City, ace, boss, come up from League Two, and been pretty solid. They have started to fade a little bit the last few weeks. A draw against Barnsley, a draw against Lincoln, but they're still not losing games of football. They've still been pretty good. Bad day at the office against, Doncaster away, but great wins away at Cardiff and Stockport and beating Luton and Wickham at home, Huddersfield at home. For a side coming into this division, Bradford are a massive football club at this level. I expected Bradford to be around mid-table, maybe push on for a top 10, top 12 finish. I thought there'd be no danger of going down. Bradford City are very well organised. They beat good sides. Maybe struggle a bit when the pressure's on them, but Bradford are a force to be reckoned with. A star so far. We can only judge on what we've seen so far. Burton Albion, who sit just above the relegation places. Now, Burton Albion, you think ranked season, just above relegation, you're having around about a point a game. You think D. I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to put Burton Albion in B. Now, it's not because I want the 3 Bs in Burton Albion. I really like this Burton group. They aren't the greatest. That Burton group, without Gary Bowyer as the manager and what they are, should be probably in the bottom 2, bottom 3 worst sides in the division. They've not got a lot of goals, and they lost Crocombe, they lost Sweeney, they lost, Bud Farson, they lost Burrell. They lost their 4 best players of last year, and obviously Charlie Webster was kept as that candidate. They were the best 5 players last year. JJ McKinnon, they retained on loan from Lincoln, and they lost goals. But Gary Bowyer's found a way to win at Cardiff. He won, against Bolton at home, got a point away at Doncaster, won away at Wimbledon. They are finding ways to win fine margin football matches and get points. They were on a difficult run, but Burton Albion staying in this division with that squad, after the losses of money in the last 12 months, will be an incredible achievement. So as it stands, they're doing that. Burton Albion, that would be a brilliant season. Cardiff City next. With Cardiff, I think they're a great side. They play good football. There's been some bumps in the road for them, don't get me wrong, where, Burton at home, we've just mentioned, where it Stockport, they found a way to get a point, good side, lost at home to Bradford. I still think this Cardiff side can get better, but this Cardiff side hardly signed a player. They hardly recruited. They were a football club in a mess that have been struggling in the Championship the last couple of years. I'm going to put Cardiff in A star because they've been finding ways to win games of football, playing some great football in the process. They've been sometimes fortunate to win the Reading game at home, where it was a game of basketball, but they're finding ways. For me, all you can judge it on Cardiff are in and around the top 3, averaging a good number of points. There's no standouts in League One or League Two this year. There's just lots of decent sides. And if you find your rhythm, that's Cardiff have. For me, Cardiff, A star. So Doncaster. Now, Doncaster started the season really well. Momentum was with them, especially at home. But they were winning games of football by the odd goal, and it felt like every shot they were having, they were scoring. The win against Exeter, 1-0 last minute. Port Vale, they won 1-0, only shot on target. The win away at Mansfield, they had 2 shots, scored 2 late goals. So they were finding ways to win against sides in and around them that you'd expect. Great win over Bradford, but since then it's been pretty flat for them. But if you said to Doncaster fans you'd be in and around where you are at the end of the year, it'd be a pretty decent season. So again, I'm going to give Doncaster Rovers, it would be A at the start, but B for me now as we move on to Exeter. Now, Exeter, if I had to rank the season, I'd probably go a C. Again, similar to Burton Albion, where you think, oh, was it a great season? But they've had that season and they've beaten their local rivals. And I'm going to go for Exeter, for the budget restraints that they've had at that football club, I'm going to go B. I think that they've had a remarkable season so far. They've won games of football. They've lost a lot, and they've not been great in a lot of games. They've won away at Wickham. They've won away at Lincoln. They've won against Plymouth. They found a great 4-1 over Blackpool. So they've had some great days. Let's be honest about it. So for me, Exeter finish where they are now, Be a great season. Gary Caldwell's done well there. Huddersfield next. They won 4 of the first 5 since I think they've taken 7 points on the last day, and they've lost, for me, for every half decent side Huddersfield have played this year. Huddersfield have lost that game away at Barnsley, away at Bradford, away at Blackpool early. You think Blackpool will be a semi-decent outfit. Home to Stockport, home to Bolton. There's pressure building. They won away at Exeter with their only shot on target. They've been pretty poor for weeks. They've got a lot of good players in there, probably too many good players in there. You'd expect that Huddersfield Town team to finish top 2 minimum, and they've been so far off that. Points-wise, they're 9th, and they're not far off it. You think, oh, B, because they're in and around where Barnsley, and they're above Barnsley in the table. And but Huddersfield, you expect more from. I might get a bit of flack for this, but I'm going to put Huddersfield in C because I still think Huddersfield have been miles off it. Next up, Leyton Orient. Now, Leyton Orient are a football club that have huge pressure on them. Playoff finalists of last year, just missed out the year before. Every year they've grown into the season. They've conceded far too many goals, but they've not been bad. They've won a few decent games. Kept a clean sheet last time out. Were great against Cardiff, couldn't quite get the victory in that one. I still think they're hit and miss. I don't think I'd expect more from Leyton Orient than I would from a Burton and Exeter, and I'm not getting it really. Again, I'm going to put Leyton Orient in C. Next up is Lincoln City. For me, they've had a really good start to the season. They've been winning plenty of football matches, and they are on the cusp they're in the playoffs. That, for me, is nowhere near acceptable. I've got a co-host who I do a League One show with that thinks they have got a right to get out of this division and go to the Championship and join Wardy and Tom, who I used to work with, now that are in the Championship. Not for me. If we're being serious, for me, Lincoln City have had a great start to the season, been solid at the back, winning games of football. You know something? If Wimbledon are in there, Lincoln have to be in there. The last few weeks, they've maybe not been at the best. They beat Stevenage 1-0. They lost to, they've lost to Wimbledon earlier on in the season, lost to Leyton Orient. The trips to the capital aren't great. I still don't think their play style is sustainable. I watched them on Tuesday night against Bradford. I thought they were the better side, actually, on that night. I think that there's still improvements needed to be made, but it's been a good start. They're in the playoffs. Luton Town, who, again, like Huddersfield, signed well in the summer, felt they could have been onto something. They brought in like Zanaki Wells and Jerry Yates. Matt Bloomfield has parted ways with the football club. If I'm going to be honest with you, Luton, a bit like Huddersfield, a bit like Leyton Orient, are flattered to deceive. They have got Jack Wilshere now in as manager, but obviously we can only judge him on his 2 games where he's lost 1 and he's won 1. Luton, there's high pressure on that. They're not doing bad points-wise. They're not too far off the sides above them, but the sides above them, you don't really expect as much from, and this is it. I'm ranking Luton season, they've not been anything that of note. You don't really remember them, do you? Next up is Mansfield Town, the Stags. A great start to the season, loving life in this division. They started well last year, so we don't want to judge too early, and kind of went to pot in about November, December time. But again, they've got some great wins, especially at home against Rotherham, against Blackpool, got a point against Stevenage. They've had some really, really, positive, victorious outcomes this year. And I really like Clough, what he's done. Great win at Luton recently. And again, they're not far off Lincoln. I'm going to put Mansfield in A. Expect as much. You maybe knock them up 1. Maybe Mansfield should be in, in B, and maybe Burton and Exeter should be in C. Next up, Northampton, solid, hard to beat. I really like what Kevin Nolan is building at that football club. I think he's done an exceptional job over the last kind of 11 months or so. They've built a good cohesive unit. They are built on not conceding goals and being tight defensively and probably winning the game 1-0. If they score first, I think they often win games. I think they're good against sides around them. When I think about the sides that they've beaten, the likes of Exeter, especially that game at home, away at Doncaster, a great victory. In anything spectacular, I think maybe a couple more wins and they could easily be an A. But for me, maybe just lacks something to be an A, but a great start for the Cobblers. Peterborough United are up next. Now, with Peterborough, they are bottom of the league. They've sacked Darren Ferguson. They've been pretty horrific. I think it took them 5 or 6 games to get a point against Bradford. They've sent out key players out on loan. They look like they've lost so many key players. You look like a team of kids out there. Luke Williams has come in. Hard to judge so far, just off the one, FA Cup victory. Only been in the building for 3 or 4 days. But Peterborough United are bottom of the division, and it would only be fair to put them in that, ungradable category, because with Peterborough playoff semi-finalists, back to back. Last year, won a trophy. This year, been miles off it. Next up is Plymouth Argyle. Now, Plymouth Argyle have been off it for a good number of years now. Obviously, they got into the championship and did really well, but like in the championship last year, they looked like they're going down. Went on a really good run towards the end of the year, beat Liverpool in the cup. They've been a team of moments of the last couple of years. League One, they've been disastrous. You felt they got going again with the Blackpool and Stockport win and the Luton win, which are great victories. Tom Cleverley now looks a broken man. And you expected Plymouth to be in the top area. They maybe didn't recruit as much as they would like. I'm sorry, but I've got to go you again. I just think they're absolute miles off it. That has got to be a bit of a concern for Tom Cleverley and the supporters of that football club, Port Vale. I think Port Vale obviously are in the bottom 4, but I think the performances don't warrant that. I think they probably are 6 or 7 points short of where they should be. They should have beaten Cardiff. They could have got a point against Stevenage, and that's just mentioning a couple of games. A point against Leyton Orient, so that's an extra 4 points minimum. They got going recently, and the last couple of games they've been poor against Wigan and Stockport, but their season won't be judged off Wigan away and Stockport at home. They've done well recently, good wins over Barnsley and Exeter, and a point against Northampton. I think they'll rise the table. I really do. We've got no one in D yet so far. I think that Port Vale are probably if they got those points that I said in the game they should have done, because at the end of the day, not just on performances, I'd probably put them in C. They're not far off, but for now, Port Vale are in D. That is how it looks with 6 clubs remaining. Next up is the Royals, Reading, who have recently also had a managerial casualty in Noel Hunt. And it didn't take long. They were on the hunt for a new manager for just under 48 hours as Liam Richardson came into the football club. A bad result in the cup yesterday. Reading haven't been bad. They haven't been losing every week. They've just not been finding a way to win and not been getting the best out of their players. They look a really decent, set of players, just don't look good together. They're a team of moments. They've been drawing a lot. I'm going to go with Port Vale. I think they've had very similar seasons so far. Only fair. That's how I put it. Port Vale and Reading. You wait for a couple of teams to go into that D section and 2 come along at once. A bit like victories for Port Vale, because as soon as they got one, they went on a good run. Rotherham United, who, to be fair to them, if we did this a month ago, would probably be in U/D, but I pulled it out. A couple of good away victories recently. Where they've been struggling away from home. At home, they've been pretty solid. Got some good results there. Port Vale, Exeter, just to mention, a couple. But the away victories have been more impressive recently. Away at Barnsley, Yorkshire Derby, not won there since 1969. I don't think they're great to watch, or Rotherham. I would probably put them in C. Yeah, Matt Hamshaw deserves humongous credit for turning it around. I think they've won 5 or 6 in a row in all competitions. Next up, Stevenage, the boys, the Borough, Matt Farley's men. Well, they were top of the league, and what a great start. They did lose to Lincoln recently, a point against Bradford. So the last couple of weeks has been a bit disappointing, but you're playing Lincoln and Bradford, who are in the top 6. Stevenage's record against the sides in and around them isn't great. Lost to Huddersfield away, obviously drew to Bradford, lost to Lincoln. They've been beating the sides you'd expect Stevenage to beat, so maybe their position is heightened a little bit. But you can only judge on who they played so far. They're doing really well in the division. They beat Luton, the local rivals, which I think really excelled this run. For me, Stevenage, I still think there's more excitement needed, but what we expected from them at the start of the year, I'm going to put them in that A category. Not far off A star, but I think they suit where they are. It's Stockport County, who are top of League One. Now 28 points from 14 games. This county side, I feel, have yet to hit the best. And we saw glimpses of their best in the last few weeks. I think that's now 6 or 7 unbeaten since that Plymouth game where Cheltenham came out, gave them a rollicking. It's worked. They probably should have won every game in the last 7 games. The 2 draws against Reading at home should have won. The Cardiff game, the Cardiff Salic scored a 96-minute equaliser. The top of the league, playing great football. No team in 2025 have won more games in county. They've never finished outside the playoffs under Dave Challoner. He expects Stockport to be up there from what they are, and they're delivering. And even when they weren't delivering, they were in and around the playoffs. A star for county. They are top of League One, and this is what needs to be done. Because that's where Stockport are. Next up, Wigan Athletic have had a pretty meh season. Once again, Wigan, they're pretty hit and miss. You get great glimpses of great moments. Start of the year started really well. Some really impressive outcomes. Good wins over Doncaster, Northampton. Away from home struggle, but we're in games. They've drawn a lot away from home and lost by the odd goal a couple of times. Since that Bolton game, they've lost their way a little bit. Ryan Lowe's been a bit ratty with supporters. I still think that this Wigan side can excel a little bit more and is being held back a little bit, but is at the start of a journey. Because I expected a bit more from Wigan. I still think with Huddersfield, Leyton Orient, Rotherham and Luton, you've seen a bit more than you've seen from Wigan. I'm going to have to put Wigan in D because I think I've seen more from Port Vale in performances. I know Wigan did beat Port Vale, at home recently, but I think Wigan have been pretty flat. I'm going to have to put them in D. Wycombe Wanderers, the last team now under Mike Dodd, ungradable. Under Duff, probably around about, an A/B. I think that a C for Wycombe. They've been pretty hit and miss. Maybe that one's too far, but yeah, they've been pretty hit and miss, have Wycombe all season. But recently they've been better, harder to beat, gone back to the old Wycombe way, winning games of football, and there's a style, there's a clear, style of identity there. So overall, in the end, ungradable for Blackpool, Plymouth and Peterborough, who all occupy the bottom 4. Port Vale also in there, but for me, performances deserve more. Reading and Wigan, I feel more can be achieved, but are being held back. Huddersfield Town have so much potential, but we're just not quite seeing it. Leyton Orient and Rotherham, the inconsistency is the problem, but there is good signs there for both. Luton and Wycombe, we expected more from at the start of the year, but maybe not quite getting, but both had a managerial change, and Wycombe certainly look better for it. Bolton Wanderers look good, but still have their off days. Barnsley been hit and miss recently. Good starts of Burton Albion and Doncaster and would take those places at the end of the season. Doncaster newly promoted. Exeter, likewise, a great win over rivals Plymouth Argyle, maybe heightens their position. And Northampton, after a poor start, pulled some great victories, especially on the road at Leyton Orient recently as well. Solid starts for Wimbledon, Lincoln and Mansfield, who have all been tough to play against and getting points regularly. Stevenage, who did occupy top, also in that mix. And then the top 3 all in A-star. Stockport, top of the division. Bradford, newly promoted. Cardiff, newly relegated. You'd say, they should be there. Look where the other relegated sides are. We've got one in U in Plymouth and one in C in Luton Town. That is where I stand. Let me know your thoughts down below. I am interested to hear your thoughts. Please get liking. Please subscribe. This is your home of League One and League Two content. So get liking, get subscribing. Let me know your thoughts down below. What am I wrong with? What am I right with? Let us know down below. Let's have a chat. Thank you for watching.